Found tucked beneath a rotting floorboard on the abandoned brigantine Scarlet Meridian, recovered off the coast of Tortuga, 1698. The ink is salt-stained. The handwriting grows unsteady toward the end. If you are reading this, then God has already decided what I could not. My name is Captain Elias Vane. I have sailed 23 years upon these waters, waters that gave me everything, and are now, I fear, preparing to take it all back. I write this not for glory, not for record, not for the courts of England, who would see me hanged regardless. I write this because a man must speak his truth before the sea swallows it whole. And tonight, the sea feels very hungry. The Scarlet Meridian creaks around me like an old woman in pain. She has always spoken to me, this ship, in the groan of her timber, in the slap of her hull against the black Atlantic. Tonight she speaks differently. Tonight she whispers warning. It began 3 days ago, though I suppose if I am being honest with myself, and what use is there in dishonesty now, it began long before that. It began the moment I refused to sack the merchant vessel out of Barbados, the one carrying women and children. My men wanted the cargo, I wanted my soul, and a captain who still possesses a soul is, to certain men, a liability. I could see it in their eyes at supper that evening. Not all of them. God, no, not all. There are good men aboard this vessel. Thomas Bray, who taught himself to read using nothing but a Bible and stubbornness. Old Pete, who carves wooden birds and sends them to his grandchildren in Bristol. These men I do not fear. But there are others, there are always others. Silas, Greer. I need only write the name and my hand tightens around this quill. Silas came aboard in Nassau 18 months ago, smooth-tongued, quick with a laugh, quicker with a blade. I should have left him on that dock. Something in his eyes told me what he was, and I chose to look away. That is the sin I will carry to whatever end awaits me. I chose to look away. He has been working them slowly, patiently, the way rot works through wood. You cannot see it happening. You press your thumb against the plank, and suddenly it goes through to nothing. That is what Silas has done to the loyalty aboard this ship. Pressed and pressed until there was nothing left beneath the surface. 2 nights ago, young Callum, barely 17, freckled, still writing letters to his mother in Cork, came to me with trembling hands and told me what he had heard below decks. The words arranged themselves in my mind like a sentence I had already read somewhere long ago. They mean to take the ship, Captain. Before we reach Havana. I thanked the boy. I told him to say nothing, to act as though the morning were ordinary. I gave him a coin, though what good a coin does a boy standing at the edge of catastrophe, I cannot say. I think I gave it to him because I did not know what else to offer. I think I gave it to him because my hands needed something to do other than shake. That night I sat in this very chair, and I thought of every decision that had carried me here, every turn of every tide. I am not a man who was born wicked. I want that understood, whoever you are, holding these pages. I want that to mean something. I came to the sea at 14. My father was a fisherman in Cornwall, a good man, a quiet man, a man who smelled of salt and pipe smoke and never raised his voice in anger once in all his years. He wanted me to stay, to mend nets, to marry a fisherman's daughter and grow old watching the same grey horizon. And I loved him for the wanting of it. But the ocean called to me the way it calls to certain men, not as an invitation, but as a command. As though I had no more choice in the matter than the tide itself. I followed that command. God forgive me for every place it led. I did not set out to become a pirate. That word sits strangely even now, like a stone in the mouth. I was a naval man first, 8 years under the Crown's flag, serving in waters that would make your nightmares feel like meadows. I watched things done in the name of empire that no decent God would recognize as justice. And slowly, very slowly, the difference between what I was ordered to do and what I refused to do became a wall I could not climb back over, so I crossed to the other side of it. And for years, I tried to hold a code, my own code, imperfect and battered as it was. No children, no clergy, no burning of villages. Take from the company ships the slave traders, the ones already soaked in the blood of the powerless. There is no honor in piracy. I know that. But I tried to draw lines. I tried to be the kind of man my father might have eventually understood, if not forgiven. Tonight those lines feel very far away. The moon is hidden behind cloud. The water is black as ink, blacker than this ink, and I can hear them moving below. Not sleeping, moving. the careful, deliberate movement of men who have made a decision and are simply waiting for the proper hour. I know that sound. I have been part of it myself, in darker years I do not speak of. I have loaded my pistol. I have placed my sword where my hand can reach it in the dark. I have written 3 letters, one for Thomas Bray, with instructions he will understand, one to be left with the harbour master in Cartagena, should anyone ever sail there on my behalf. And this one I write for no practical purpose. This one I write simply because the night is long and my heart is full, and a man should not face what is coming in silence. My daughter's name is Mara. She is 9 years old, and she lives with my sister in Penzance, and she has never once seen me as anything other than the tall stranger who arrives with foreign coins and leaves before the season changes. I have told myself for years that I would go back, that there would be a final voyage, a last prize, enough to buy a small house somewhere inland where the ocean cannot find me, that I would sit across a table from Mara and become finally the father she deserved. I have been a fool of the most particular kind, the kind that mistakes intention for action and tomorrow for something that is guaranteed to arrive. The handwriting here grows smaller, pressed harder into the parchment, as though the writer feared the words might escape before he finished them. It is past midnight now. I know this not by any clock, for the glass broke in a storm off Hispaniola 2 weeks past, and I have not replaced it. I know it by the silence. There is a particular quality to silence after midnight on open water, thick, breathless, the kind that seems to lean against the door. They are no longer moving below decks. That stillness frightens me more than the movement did. Movement means preparation. Stillness means readiness. And readiness means the hour is closer than I had calculated. I have spent the last hour reading back through the ship's log. 23 months aboard the Scarlet Meridian. 41 voyages before her, on 7 different vessels, across waters that stretch from the cold grey throat of the North Atlantic to the warm green shallows of the Caribbean. I have survived storms that snapped masts like dry fingers. I have survived naval pursuit through fog so thick you could press your hand into it. I have survived fever and blade and the particular madness that comes from too many weeks without sight of land. I do not say this from pride. I say it because I need to remind myself here, in the smallest hour of this terrible night, that I am not a man who breaks easily. But there is something different about what is coming. Something I have not faced before in all those years upon all those waters. A storm does not hate you. A fever does not choose you. The men below this deck have looked at me across a table and shared my salt and my bread and my fire, and they have chosen, with full and deliberate hearts, to undo me. There is a particular loneliness in that, a loneliness I have no word for in any language I have sailed through. I think of the faces I trust. Thomas Bray will be awake, I am certain of it. He is not a man who sleeps when trouble gathers. Old Pete, perhaps. Young Callum, God willing, hidden somewhere safe and small. I have perhaps 8 men who would stand with me if the moment came cleanly, if there were a moment for choosing sides in daylight, with clear heads and open hands. But mutinies are not clean. They are not declared like battles. They come in the dark, fast and decided, and by the time the honest men understand what is happening, the shape of the world has already changed. Silas Greer knows this. That is precisely why he has waited for the dark. I want to write about him without anger, because anger obscures truth, and I am trying, in these final pages, to see clearly. Silas is not simply a wicked man. That would be easier. Simple wickedness is at least legible. No, Silas is something more dangerous. He is a man who has decided that the world owes him a specific debt, and he intends to collect it by whatever instrument comes to hand. He has charm enough to make men love him, and grievance enough to make them follow him, and patience enough to wait until the conditions are precisely right. I recognize him because I have looked at something of him in the mirror. Not the cruelty, I do not claim the cruelty, but the grievance. The long burning sense that the world arranged itself deliberately against you, and that you are therefore owed something back. I know that feeling in my bones. The difference between Silas and me, I have always believed, is the line I draw, the thing I refuse. Tonight I am no longer certain that line will hold, because here is the truth I have been circling around all evening, the one I have not yet allowed myself to write in plain words. I am afraid, not of dying, or not only of dying. I am afraid of what I may have to do before the dying, if dying is indeed what comes. I am afraid of what this night will ask of me. I have lived long enough upon the water to know that survival sometimes costs more than the thing you are surviving for. There is a pistol on this desk. I have looked at it for the better part of an hour. It holds one shot. One shot is a commitment to a specific kind of ending, and I have not yet decided which ending I am prepared to commit to. I keep returning to Mara, 9 years old. Brown hair, I think, though it has been long enough that I am working from memory, and memory is not always honest. My sister wrote to me last spring, managed somehow to reach me through a contact in Port Royal, and she said that Mara had begun asking questions, not the soft questions of a small child who can be satisfied with a simple story. Real questions, sharp questions. Why does he not come? Where does he go? Does he know my name? She knows my name. Of course she knows my name. I am told she keeps a small portrait, not a real portrait, simply a sketch some merchant made in Penzance years ago, traded for a few shillings. A bad likeness, my sister says. The nose is wrong and the eyes are set too close together. But Mara keeps it on the windowsill of her room, facing the sea. That is the detail that undoes me. Every time I have thought of it tonight, something in my chest pulls apart like wet cloth. She keeps it facing the sea, as though she is watching for me. As though she has decided, with the complete and unreasonable faith of a child, that if she keeps her eyes on the right horizon, eventually I will appear on it. And I have spent 9 years failing that faith so quietly and so consistently that she has had no single moment to point to and call betrayal. Just an endless, ordinary absence, the cruelest kind. I made a promise to myself in this chair tonight. A quiet promise, with no witness but the wood and the water. If I survive what is coming, if morning finds me still standing on this deck with the Scarlet Meridian still under my feet, I will sail her to Penzance. No more voyages after that. No more prizes, no more running, no more telling myself there is one more thing to secure before I can afford to stop. I will find my daughter on that grey Cornish shore, and I will stand before her, and I will offer her the only honest thing I have left to give, the rest of whatever years remain to me. That is the promise. I have written it here so that it exists somewhere outside my own mind, so that it is real. But I can hear it now, the sound I have been waiting for and dreading in equal measure. Footsteps on the companion ladder, not one pair, many. Moving without urgency, which is somehow worse, the slow, certain footfall of men who believe the outcome is already settled. They are coming. I am folding this letter now and placing it beneath the floorboard, where I have kept my most private documents these 3 years. Perhaps no one will find it. Perhaps this ship will go to the bottom before morning, and everything in her will become a secret kept by the ocean, which is the greatest keeper of secrets this world has ever known. Or perhaps some future hand will pry these boards up and find these pages and read the last honest words of Elias Vane, captain of the Scarlet Meridian, who tried to draw lines in a world that did not believe in them. The footsteps have stopped outside my cabin door. I can hear breathing on the other side of it now, low, controlled, the breathing of men who have steadied themselves for what they are about to do. And I find, sitting here with this quill still in my hand, that I am steadier than I expected. The fear has not left me, but beneath the fear there is something older and quieter, something that has been with me since Cornwall, since the first morning I stood at the edge of the water and understood that it would take me. Whatever is on the other side of this door, I have lived a life upon the sea. I have seen things of such terrible beauty that no painter could hold them. I have known loyalty and treachery and storms and stillness and the specific grace of a ship running full sail before a clean Atlantic wind. I have loved, poorly and at a distance, but I have loved. The handle is moving. I want Mara to know, if these words should ever find their way to a Cornish windowsill, to the hands of a girl watching the horizon, that the portrait faces the right direction, that somewhere on the water her father was always sailing toward her. I want her to know I tried to be worth the watching. The letter ends here. The final line is pressed so deep into the parchment that it nearly tears through. What became of Captain Elias Vane, and whether he ever reached that Cornish shore, the sea has never told.